And welcome everyone. So the next round of Xculture starts in a few days. And while you do have all of the materials on the resource page to get yourself up to speed, but just in case you have questions or you want to meet the team, we organize these orientation sessions. And so as always, we have two tracks. So with so many countries, so many universities, obviously, the semester starts and ends at different times in different locations. And so we have to accommodate for that by creating these separate tracks. And so the early track this semester starts Monday, August 26th, and then goes on for about 8 weeks. And the late track starts, if I remember correctly, October 7th. And so then also goes on for a few weeks, and ends end of November. And so today we'll talk a little bit about how these things work, what to expect, how to get your winning report written, and basically what else you can get out of Xculture other than the fun of working with people from different countries. And maybe I'll do a quick round of introductions because we do have a few professors here who are and have been involved in Xculture in one way or another. So maybe I'll go in the order that they appear on my screen. So Thad Levalin, so he is the professor who teaches the Xculture course, sort of. So we have a course dedicated almost entirely to Xculture, and he has a gigantic number of students, like 350 students in a given semester. So those of you who complain about large class sizes, when Thad is here, don't complain about your 50 or 60 students. He has like 350. So, and then we have Meredith Murray. So she is the administrator at our department. And so she's helping with everything at the department, but also has been more and more involved with Xculture. In fact, just came back from Thailand, where we organized the Xculture Symposium, and so helped us a little bit with that, and so helps on all kinds of fronts. Now, Jeff Kappen, so he's been sort of with Xculture for like a decade, right? So we always intersect at the Academy of International Business Southeast USA conference. So he is very, very heavily involved with the Academy of International Business. And so even though his students may have not been participating in Xculture for a decade plus, he's been very, very much part of our team in different capacities, including, by the way, while we are trying to help other companies, Jeff and his company were trying to help us on a few occasions. So thank you so much, Jeff. Yes. And then Livio Flora. So Livio is in Kansas, and actually we were roommates for a week in Chicago just a week ago. So and he also has participated in Xculture, one of the first professors, at least 10 years, probably more. And so Livio is also very, very active on the research side. So he has published a bunch of papers based on Xculture data, participated in a number of Xculture research hackathons. So those of you, especially professors, if you're into research, we do a lot of that. And so Livio is one of the more active researchers on our team, in addition to being the professor. And then Jim Johnson, I don't know much about Jim Johnson. So Jim, you're relatively new, so maybe you can introduce yourself.
Thank you, Bas. Yeah, Jim Johnson, Professor of International Business at Rollins College, Florida. I've been teaching international business now for almost 30 years, and this is the first opportunity I've had to join Xculture. So I'm looking forward to it. I know my students are going to learn a lot, and I think I'm going to learn a lot too. So thank you.
I would take it as a badge of honor, not as ageism, but yes. So apparently, Professor Johnson has taught international business longer than most of you have lived. So that's, take that with respect. So that's a big deal. Anyway, so Xculture, I'll give you a quick 5-minute overview of where we came from, so to speak, the historic perspective, and that explains a little bit what we are trying to do. And then maybe I'll ask the professors here who have experience maybe to share their notes and experiences, and then we'll go to Q&A. So the original idea for Xculture was very, very simple, and it still remains the core idea, but now Xculture is much more than what it was originally envisioned to be. So the main purpose for Xculture was to allow students who take international business courses to sort of experience in real life what professors are trying to teach them through lectures. So I don't know about other professors, but I myself teach in international business. Standing in front of the classroom, often find sort of myself in a situation where I'm trying to explain concepts that are not easy to explain through lectures. It's like teaching someone how to swim on a football field, right? You need to get in the water to truly understand what the coach tells you. Same thing here. I can tell you all day about how doing business with Ukrainians is different than doing business with Americans, how, I don't know, cultural differences matter, how people have different values. But until you sort of get into the water, you may understand what I'm saying, but may not fully comprehend and not fully sort of experience it. And so the idea with XCulture was that we would have several professors from different countries who teach international business, and we would put our students in global virtual teams and give them a task, some task, any task to work on. But as they work as a global virtual team, they would be experiencing and dealing with cultural differences, geographic distance, time zone differences, institutional differences. And so thereby sort of will experience in real life what the teacher is trying to teach them in the lecture. And so that was the idea. The task originally was, I think if you had $1 million, what kind of business would you start? Write a business plan. Then Daniel Roddick came along with an interesting idea of sort of if you built a new Disneyland location, where would it be and how would you design it to make it more appealing to the local customs? And so that must have been like the first 2, maybe 3 rounds. But then very quickly, real companies or companies that many of our professors work with started asking if they can harness sort of the bright minds of our students and basically ask for ideas. And so that's when we started presenting real life challenges. So not hypothetical cases, but real clients, real challenges. The very first one was actually Mercedes-Benz. So we went to the Academy of International Business Conference in Turkey. And so I teamed up with Mercedes-Benz, the buses and trucks division. And so they have a big factory in Turkey where they make the whole, basically all of those trucks and buses. And so we saw how they make them from literally a roll of metal to the point where they give you the key, you put it in the ignition and start the engine for the first time. And so they had some questions about, so basically they wanted some ideas for marketing those buses and trucks for some African and I believe Asian countries. And the students did a very good job. They liked it very much. As I said, they even invited, I think there were like 37 students at that time. And so that's when it changed, or rather grew from simply international experience to also international business consulting experience. So since then, we always try to have about 5 clients, but somehow end up more with like 10 to 12. And so those are real companies that sort of need input from students. And so you essentially, students serve as international business consultants. And so again, we've done a lot of research and a lot of discussions as to whether or not students can be of value. Should they hire a crowd like XCulture, or should they go to big companies like McKinsey or Deloitte, or maybe like a smaller consulting company that Jeff co-leads with his partner? So should they hire professionals or should they hire students? And so after doing it for over a decade, we know that there are some things that obviously only professionals can do. Like, for example, if you need to develop a nuclear reactor, you probably want to have a few nuclear physicists, not a crowd of students. Or likewise, if you need to complete a very simple task like tie your shoes, you don't need a crowd, or even you don't need consultants for that matter. But some tasks lend themselves uniquely, make themselves uniquely suitable for crowds. So where you need that, what we call global expertise locally. So one, it's very helpful when you really have the whole planet as your sort of playground, and you need to have that global expertise locally. Like, for example, if you don't know where you need to go, yes, professional consultants can run some analysis and can come up with something. But when you have a crowd already in those many countries, and in XCulture, we would normally have at least 40 countries based on the location of the university, about 70 to 80 countries based on the locations of the students, because many take courses online. But then we would always have about 150 nationalities based on where students are from, because again, many are international students, many are taking study abroad and things like that. And so if there is an opportunity for your business out there, there is always a chance that one of the students or some of the students will be from there, and they will say, hey, you know what, this is a brilliant idea. I really think there is a market for this product where I come from, and there is no competition. Likewise, if your product, for example, has, I don't know, the slogan that doesn't sound, doesn't mean something, means something else than what you think it means, or the company name that doesn't sound right at the local language, or the packaging color or whatever else. We've had companies literally change their names because the students told them, oh, no, in this market, it actually means something really bad. And so again, consultants in Boston or consultants wherever they are, they may just not have that local expertise around the entire planet. And so XCulture is very good at that. Next one, very, very important, that's serendipity. So again, XCulture students are not, how should I say, not smarter than professional consultants. In fact, most of them are just average. I mean, yes, they come from some of the best business schools around the world, but I mean, they're still regular people. And so if you give them consistently, task after task after task, a particular student, like a random individual from that crowd, will probably not do anything extraordinary most of the times. But once in a while, a student may serendipitously, sort of just by pure luck, maybe know someone who is useful for this challenge, maybe read something that is useful, maybe saw something that is useful. And once in a while, they're like, oh, you know what? I actually saw that when I was traveling, I don't know, to Italy, or I was traveling to Thailand, and that's how they marketed this kind of product, or that's how they set the pricing. And so just serendipitously, the student comes up with this bright idea once maybe in a lifetime. But when you have thousands of students working in your challenge, chances that some of them will come up with an interesting idea are pretty high. And so while yes, 9 out of 10 proposals or ideas will be probably just average, nothing new, the company will not be impressed with them. 1 in 10, maybe 1 in 20 is really, really good. And so our client CEOs always say that it's not really each individual report that they're after. They're looking for those gems in the sea of many reports. And some of those like, wow, this is really good. Okay, so we want that. So again, sometimes the student just comes up with an original idea, again, that is maybe the first time and the last time in their life, but those ideas really, really matter. And lastly, it's compilations and averages. So for example, many clients would say, could you, for example, ask 5 of your friends if they would buy a product like this? Why or why not? How do they select a product like this, shoes or drinks or clothing or whatever that might be? How much would they pay for it? So each of you asks maybe 3-5 friends. As a team, you maybe ask 20 people. So still not really particularly much. But if 1,000 students do that, all of a sudden you have this nice compilation, like a global survey of potential customers. And once you put all of that together, that's actually very useful. I don't know how difficult it would be, for example, for Jeff's company to conduct a survey of thousands of clients around the planet, like in 70 countries. I imagine that would cost a lot of money. Here, XCulture can do it when everybody does a little tiny bit of work. Likewise, if the client says, give us the list of our competitors. Again, you may do your research and you find 3 or 4 and you analyze them. Somebody else does research, find 3 or 4 different ones. Individually, most of those the clients probably know. But once you put it together, you would actually have a very nice comprehensive compilation of all of the competitors on this planet with a nice analysis. And so it's the sort of the value in numbers. Likewise, for example, the averages or the most recommended, whatever that is. So if I tell you that the best market for your product is, let's say, Germany or Thailand, well, it's just me telling you that. But if you have a few hundred teams working on your challenge, and let's say 80% of them say that Thailand is really the best market for your product, or Germany is the best market for your product, all of a sudden that means something. Or if you ask, so how much should I charge for my service? If I tell you that it's $100, annual subscription, I guess it's interesting. But if a few hundred teams, talk to potential customers, analyze the competition, look at the market, and they each recommend the best price, and then you sort of plot it and look at the distribution, and it does converge around $100 per year, all of a sudden that actually means something. So individually, not particularly useful, but once you put it together and get that average, that actually means a lot. And so that's what our clients are for. So they may not necessarily be interested in every single report individually, But once you put them together, once you look at this whole collection of ideas, of data, of whatever else you as a team did, all of a sudden that is actually a very, very valuable input. And then often companies actually ask for the second round, where they ask us to prepare what we call the executive analytics summary. And so we have a team of Rafael Tamashiro leads the team. So there would be several graduate students who would read the reports and then prepare a nice summary, like most interesting ideas, average recommended price, most frequently recommended market, most frequently mentioned weaknesses or strength of your company, and things like that. And then most interesting slogans or marketing ideas. So that's very useful. And then in some cases, actually, the companies want us then to assemble a team of professional consultants, professors, or maybe people like, again, like Jeff here, so who then take the, the massive input that the students provided, and then based on that provide like a more professional, analytical strategy or whatever they might need. So that's where the real value comes from. So occasionally, though, and it happens pretty much every semester, some individual reports are so good that the clients say, hey, who wrote it? I actually want to meet them. I want to talk to them. And we've had many cases when the companies would offer internships or even jobs, or the other way around. We actually had a case. When a student, it was at one of the Academy of Management Southeast conferences where the winning team presented their work. And so one of the students decided to show it to his employer, incidentally, here in North Carolina. And the employer was so impressed that he paid for the student's tuition for the rest of whatever he had, like a year left, and then eventually hired two of his team members from other countries, and they work in North Carolina. So he's like, whoa, I had no idea you're doing this. Okay, this is really impressive. This is really nice. So that's basically the business component. And then some other things happen that are sort of less perhaps relevant. Well, I guess they are relevant for students. So many of our professors started bringing students to the Academy of International Business Conference. I think Daniel Roddick was actually the first one, and then some other professors. And at some time we thought, hey, we are bringing so many of them already. Let's maybe carve like a little segment and call it the X-Culture Symposium. And so we started doing that. I think it was 2011, Fort Lauderdale was the first one. And then we started doing it again and again and again. And so we would have like a separate competition. We would have some workshops, career development, company visits, client companies. And at some point, it also became so big that it just too many students, plus it's sort of in the fall during the school year. Not everyone can go at that time. So we started doing these self-standing X-Culture Symposia that are longer, a whole week. We call them Business Week. And that's in the summer. And so we did the first one in Miami, but all the subsequent ones were in different countries. So we had one in Thailand just a few weeks ago. Before that, we had one in Poland, in Italy, in Canada. I may be missing a few countries. The next one, we already know where it will be, but I think I'm still not allowed to say. So, but a very interesting exotic location. And then we also know which one, where the 2026 will be. So I'll tell you that one will be in the Middle East, in one of the richer countries, and one will be in Europe, in one of the very, very beautiful countries. So that's all I'm allowed to say. But we're also talking to a few other places, Colombia, Ecuador. So we're still thinking and trying to figure out how to do it all. So, but in any case, that's for the best students. We invite usually only about top 20% of the students. And obviously not everyone whom we invite can come, schedule conflicts. Sometimes it's the money issue. So, but in any case, if you do well, you probably will get an invitation. And that's a wonderful experience. A whole week, people from all around the world, usually in the fall, we aim at about 50 people, though this time I think we have 59 registered. And in the summer, we usually cap it at 150. So, and then another development is, as I said, research. So we need to know why some teams do better than others for administrative purposes. But also most of us professors, we are sort of at research institutions. We need to do research and publish papers. And X-Culture is, dare I to say, an unprecedented research platform for studying teams in human history, I would even say. The challenge here is that if you want to study teams, behavior in teams, especially global virtual teams, the truth is they do not exist in large numbers in the wild, so to speak. even if you get access to large companies like Microsoft or Google or Toyota, they do have tens of thousands of people and probably hundreds, if not thousands of teams. But all of those teams, they work at different tasks at different times, different managers, different conditions, different, workflow, and you can't really compare them directly. And so usually most of the research done with employees would be either a case study of a single team or maybe a few teams or some, like a smaller group of student teams, like a 60, student class split into 10 teams of 6. And even if you do have access to teams of employees, usually you would be allowed to maybe observe, maybe conduct some quick interviews, maybe do like one quick survey, but nobody would allow you to manipulate their compensation system, incentives, communication channels, duration of meetings, size of the team. That would interfere with the work process. Well, at XCulture, we have about 1,000 plus teams every semester. And we can collect more data. We can conduct regular surveys. We can conduct experiments. As I said, we do need it for administrative purposes, but also it's extremely illuminating if you want to understand what's going on in those teams. Why some people are more likely to become team leaders, why some leaders are more effective than others, why some teams have more conflicts than others. Is it better to have a larger team or a smaller team? Is it better to have to allow teams to communicate with one another or compete with one another? I mean, thousands and thousands of questions that you can ask using XCulture as the sort of research platform. Jennifer Lee just joined us as well. So she's also one of the researchers in residence, so to speak, also was at the XCulture Hackathon in Chicago. Liviu was there, so a few other people. So has done quite a lot of research. Like, for example, Jennifer is now involved in one interesting study related to the use of AI. So we are trying to track how much students use AI, ChatGPT, how much students or how students think about the use of AI. Is it ethical or not? But also how much does it help? Does it make things better? And then a kind of parallel study. I'm not sure if I should reveal that. I guess I could maybe. Yeah, I'll give you an example of one of the very, very interesting studies that we actually Liviu, I think, is part of that study anyway. Or maybe not. I start losing track of who's on this. So anyway, one of the challenges at XCulture we have is weekly feedback on the work students do. And as you can imagine, with 1,000 teams or so, it would be very, very costly and difficult to read each of the weekly deliverables from each of the teams and provide feedback. And people said, hey, how about we use AI and ask AI to read those weekly submissions and provide feedback? That will be easy, cheaper to do. But then the question is, will it be effective? Will students like it or not? And so we've been running experiments where we had the control group where there was no feedback whatsoever, so for weekly submissions. Then we recruited about 18 or 20 professors who would read the weekly deliverables and provide feedback. And so we had like 200 teams in that condition. And then we had another like 200 teams whose deliverables were read by AI. The AI would generate feedback, but we didn't tell students that it was AI. And then there was a condition where students received feedback from AI and they knew it was AI. So no feedback from humans, professors. From AI, you don't know it's AI, and from AI, you know it's AI. So professors here, those who don't know the results of the study, which condition do you think produced the highest quality of work and the highest satisfaction among students? I think, Jeff, you may not know about this study because I think the others do. And Thad, you may not know. So who do you think made students happiest and most importantly led to the best quality reports? What would be your expectation? And students, if you want to put maybe in the comments what your thoughts are. So we found two very interesting, unexpected results. So Thad, Jeff, you want to speculate on which one?
Part of me thinks if the team's going well, quick AI may have won. And if they were in trouble, they may have needed more TLC, would be my guess.
Oh, that's actually an interesting refinement. I don't think we looked at the moderating effect of how well the team does.
Happy to help you out.
That's an interesting idea. I actually didn't think about that. But anyway, so no feedback is the base. Feedback from professors, more satisfaction, better quality. Feedback from AI, students don't know it's AI. As good or even better than real humans. So basically AI does a good job, but, and that's interesting, if students know it's AI, even though we know it's good, because when they don't know, they improve, like they're happy and they are doing a good job. But when they do know, it's actually worse than no feedback whatsoever. So people hate it, they don't like it, and the actual quality went for some reason down. Like why? I don't understand. And so now what we're trying to test is use of AI by students themselves. So last semester we actually taught students how to use AI, how to prompt, how to submit the work, how to what prompt you should write, and so how to get feedback. And so we're hoping this way there will be no deception. Students know it's AI, but because they got it, so they will not have to be so they will not be disappointed, so to speak. But anyway, those are some of the interesting studies that we do, because again, we needed to know, we need to know it so that we can manage the project better. But so that's about the general stuff. But so the logistics is very simple. So nothing unusual here. So you all by now, students, should have received your welcome letters. And so all you need to do is to click on the link in the welcome letter, and it will take you to this page. Let me show you the resource page. So I'll share it here. So that's the, let me just open the page. So this is the resource page where you have everything that you need to have. So you have the schedule, you have the training materials, and they are basically short videos and one PDF file that you would read. And then also, the schedule. You have the list of companies that participated last semester. Some of them stay, and there will be some new companies. And then I thought, in full disclosure, why not? I included also some materials that are for instructors, but if you wanted to look at it, sure, why not? So students have access to it too. And then so every week, so you will receive your team assignments on Monday. And so that email will contain the names and the email addresses of your students, of your team members. And so you initiate the contact by email. Then it's up to you to decide how you would like to communicate. Most teams use most tools, so you'll probably stick with email. You probably will have at least some Zoom meetings. You probably will use like Dropbox or Google Docs for document sharing. And many teams also create like WhatsApp group. Many teams also may have like a, Skype call from time to time, or whatever else you want to use. So nothing super difficult. And then so every week, it's a weekly cycle. So every time the deadline is on Monday. And so every time you have to complete a weekly progress survey, you will receive an email a few days in advance with the link. And so that survey will take probably somewhere close to like 15 to plus or minus minutes. It will ask what's going on in your team. It will ask if everything's fine, if you need any help. So there will be also a few questions that we ask for research purposes, again, to know, figure out how we can manage this project better. So there may be some questions about like your work style preferences, or maybe some questions related to your like use of AI, for example. So things like that. And that's pretty much it. So the deliverables are due every Monday, and every Wednesday or so you will receive an email with the review of your team's performance last week. So your peer evaluations, some comments and things like that, your own peer evaluations, and the link to the next week's survey. There is nothing really in that email that makes you wait. So you know what the task is, you know what needs to be done, so you can work on the challenge without waiting for the link to the weekly progress survey. So, but yes, you should expect to get those, as I said, roughly on Wednesday. So Monday is the due date. Tuesday, we process the data. On Wednesday, we send you the update. And so I'll just open a couple of these challenges just to give you an idea of what they look like. So almost always it's a company. Well, I happened to open two actually relatively big ones. So this one is from Grenada. And so they grow nutmegs. It's a fruit. And this one is one of the, in fact, probably the biggest Asian, basically like an Asian McDonald's or a similar type of restaurant, and they operate in multiple countries. I actually ate in that restaurant for the first time in Thailand and Japan just a few weeks ago. Let me maybe also open one more just as an example of something smaller. Yeah, YKK happens to be the world's almost monopoly largest manufacturer of like zippers, buttons. So yeah, Mastromedia would be like a smaller company from Poland. But almost always, this is what it will look like. So you would have a little bit of a description about the company, so what they do, how they do it, where they operate, and then a set of questions that they need help with. And so almost always it would be something like, we are a company from Grenada. We work in this market. We sell our products in a few countries. We want to expand more international. So tell us where else we can sell our product. Who are our competitors in this case? How does the industry operate? What would be the best new market? And once you select the best new market, you analyze it. You tell us about the culture, about the trade regulations, about the competition, about the whatever business climate. And then for that market, so what's the best way to enter that market? Should we sell directly to the consumers? Should we have some sort of a joint venture? Should we set up, I don't know, a wholly owned subsidiary? Should it be something else? How do we ship our product? What are the trade regulations? And so here they also wanted risk and mitigation plan. So, and then almost all of them also have a marketing section. So what's the best way to promote the product? Whom should we promote it to? Like this company, usually they wouldn't be selling it directly to the end consumer. So they would be more interested in marketing to like distributors, retailers, or maybe many, producers of products that use nutmegs. So what should be the best promotion channel? What should be the message? Maybe create like a sample newsletter or a sample ad for social media or a sample ad for TV or whatever the challenge is. And that's basically it. And again, in full disclosure, we even give you the evaluation rubrics, exactly the same ones that professors use. So this way you can try to score your work directly here and kind of guess your grade, or you can run it by your professor. And that's basically it. And then at the end, you submit first the full draft of your report. So again, we do it both so that we can check your work and make sure that you're on track and you will submit your full report on time. So when we didn't ask for the draft a week before the final deadline, some teams would wait until the last day and only then try to do some work. So now with the deliverables in full draft, the teams need to be more proactive. But then also, when you submit the final draft, we also submitted, obviously run it through the plagiarism check and things like that. And yeah, in the end, professors evaluate the reports, you get your feedback, you get your grades, and obviously you get your certificate and you get your recommendation letter and you get your personal private performance review. So that one is not shared with anyone but you. So that one has some honest feedback. Like it tells you how you personally score or rank against all the other thousands of students and how your team ranks against all the many other teams, but also some additional feedback that we get from professors and coaches. And yeah, that's basically where the project ends. And then the best of you will get an invitation. Oh, one more thing, the coaching program. So yes, we had students who participated in XCulture multiple times in a row. So they did it first as part of a class. And we had a bunch of students who said, can I do it again? I'm like, sure. And then another one, like, can I do it again? And then again. And so when somebody did it 4 times in a row, I'm like, wait a second, maybe we can make you a coach to the new generation of XCulture students. And so the first time we had actually several students like that, but then we sort of developed it into a full-scale coaching program. So we normally have about 50 to 100 coaches. So about 400 or 500 people apply, but they need to complete several weeks of training. And I think it's like 16 training modules, how to provide effective feedback, conflict resolution, cross-cultural communication, how to develop a training webinar, how to develop a typed written, training module and things like that. And so only those who complete all of the training modules and complete all of the tasks actually become coaches. And so they do help us run the project. So if you have a question, usually it would be a coach who will help you. If you need private feedback, again, like on a weekly deliverable, the coaching program allows you to submit what you have. They will assign a couple of coaches. They will give you feedback. They organize additional webinars, sessions, trainings, consulting, and things like that. And so they help a lot. And so if you do well, you will be invited to apply to that program as well. I'll stop here. So professors, any other thoughts, comments? So we have some of you who have participated multiple times, so maybe you can share some impressions, some thoughts. And students, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. So we'll get to them in a second. Leave you with that. What would be your comments and experiences.
Yeah, my only comment, especially to the professors, and the students can appreciate this also, is that if you're doing this as an asynchronous class, in other words, not a live classroom, is communicate regularly with your students by email, or maybe post a video or something to give them updates, maybe weekly, on what they're expected to do, what was due this past week, and really what's coming up, because especially these first couple of weeks, you get a tremendous amount of emails of, hey, I took the readiness test and I haven't been put on a team yet, because they think they're going to be put on a team immediately, and it usually takes a week or more. Or the readiness test, you get a lot of students that register late and they haven't received the readiness test. But just regular communication with the students. And as Vas said, in my case, I've got 388 students. It's hard to do individual communications, but you can put out mass emails or a video and post it to whatever your learning management system is. And I find that to be helpful. This is my second full year of doing it, so that's something I'm really working hard on, how to communicate better with the students.
I think that Thad's point is very good. Bringing students on board as early and as often as possible, I think it's part of the success of the exercise. Keeping them engaged, I think it's great. I'm even thinking about having some kind of icebreakers for the first week after the teams are formed, so as to stimulate the students to get in touch with their teammates, to try to be as proactive as possible. In my experience, some students are taking a kind of wait and see attitude. They just let's wait a day or two or a week or two to see what's happening. And I think that the potential of our global virtual team is more likely to be achieved if everyone is on board as early as possible and participating in all way, engage. Obviously, our job is important to, and Vas' job is very important to keep them informed regularly, to have access to information, to videos. And obviously, we can do it. But it's also part of what the students are doing out of their own initiative, rather than just waiting for someone to push them toward engaging with others. So I'm thinking about some kind of ice breaking. I'm not sure exactly what will break the ice for a early 20s student, but something that will motivate them, will even force them to get in touch with the others, to ask questions, to talk about themselves, to create a kind of environment where everyone feels welcome and willing to contribute, and knowing that by contributing, only good things can happen. There is no punishment for doing something or for trying something.
Two things that I've tried this semester is I've done a little scavenger hunt on the syllabus, trying to get them to at least read the syllabus, and it's a graded quiz, not hard, 10 or 15 questions, and forcing them to pay attention to the due dates and things like that. And then the other thing is, once they take the readiness test, they receive a certificate. I have them, for a grade, post that certificate to the learning management system, just a screenshot of it or something, to say, hey, you've taken the test. That way I know that they've taken it, rather than waiting on the report that comes in a week or two later.
Vas, could I ask a question about the students' use of AI? You talked about AI using AI for feedback.
Yes, please.
Our policy here is that it varies from course to course. If the students use AI in an assignment, they must make that clear and notify the instructor. Is that the same here?
Let me address that as a separate question. So let me say one more thing about readiness test and then AI, because it's not a quick answer. So on the readiness test, I will say this, that the readiness test is untimed. So you can do it for as long as you want. And the questions basically mirror the training module. And so it's designed to be more of a review rather than sort of a test in a traditional sense. At the same time, it's kind of long and intentionally so. So one of the challenges in any team assignment, in corporate teams and student teams and ex-culture teams, is that some students are perhaps not as dedicated for whatever reason, not necessarily that they're lazy or irresponsible, but because maybe they have a time-consuming job or family or who knows. And you don't want to have students on your team who are not willing and able to put in the time. So again, they may be very smart, but if that's not their priority, or if they don't have access to good internet or whatever the reason, if they cannot go online regularly and do the work, you don't want them on the team. So the ex-culture test, readiness test, it both tests your knowledge of the project, but also your knowledge of English, but also your ability to actually sit down and do some work for whatever time it takes. Probably for native speakers, maybe 30 minutes, maybe a little bit more. For non-native speakers, maybe up to an hour. And as I said, if you can't sit down and do it, you probably will have time to meet with the team or do the work the team assigns you. If you can't do even this, you probably will not be a good team member. And nobody wants to have slackers on their teams. And so that's why we sort of have this test. So as long as you try, you will pass it. But if you don't try, you will not pass it. And if so, we don't want you in the project. So it's not the case where I'm selling, for example, a book, and I don't care if you read it or not after you buy it. It's a team-based project. And so we only want people who will be good team members. If you are not ready to be a good team member, we would much rather you not even participate in the project than you enroll and not do a good job. Now on AI, tricky business. We had actually a bunch of workshops and sessions and discussions at the Academy of International Business, Academy of Management. Some of the professors here participated and co-organized them. So no simple answer. In ex-culture, we have had those talks from the very beginning once ChatGPT was rolled out. And we've had opinions ranging from one extreme to the other, from the extreme where some professors say, oh, it has to be banned. We have to make students write some sort of a pledge or sign a contract. We will use those tools that presumably check if it was written by AI or not. And once we catch someone, we will expel them from not only ex-culture, from the university. The other extreme is not only it's okay to use AI, how about we actually make it mandatory? So we teach them how to use it and we make it mandatory. So for example, if the question is, what's the best new market? I want the students to go and ask ChatGPT and maybe ask also Claude and ask Copilot and provide the answers provided by AI and then provide your own answer. And so this way it will put everyone on the level, field. And then everything in between. Maybe they can, but only with the disclosure, or maybe they can only for this, but not for that, and things like that. And then administratively, for me, that's also a challenge. On the one hand, so first, students, close your ears. I don't want you to hear that. The truth is that plagiarism detection is dead. Like it's dead. So it cannot, I mean, like some students still foolishly plagiarize the good old way, and then plagiarism detection, like Turnitin still catches it. But technically, you just go to ChatGPT and you say paraphrase using the language of a 17-year-old college student for whom English is not the first language, and it will actually make it with errors. It will not be the Shakespearean language, and so it's very, very easy to avoid detection of the actual copy pasting. Second, AI detection does not work. So we tested like 20 tools. No, they're not reliable. So they would take text that I would write and say like 45% chance that it was written by AI. We would ask AI generated content and it would say like 38% that it's written by AI. More importantly, it doesn't tell you yes or no. It says the probability of. And again, so what do you do with that? Like, what if it's 45%? Is it too high? Is it 55? You can't really do much with it. Another dilemma that I deal with as an administrator, technically, I want the students to produce as good a work as possible for the clients. And I actually want the students to ask AI to check your grammar, to improve your writing, because some of those reports, at least before AI, and frankly, even now, the language is so bad that it's sometimes embarrassing to show it to the client. So the students would get that language, some would copy edit it. That would actually be not bad. Then we had all discussions about ethics of it. So is it ethical or not? Very complicated business. Well, first of all, we've been using AI for a long time, all of us. Calculators, spell checkers in Microsoft Word. I mean, that's too much or not? Grammarly, so it checks not only the spelling, but also the actual grammar. Is it too much? There was a scandal not long ago when a student was expelled from the university for using Grammarly, but then again, we all use it, and sometimes you can even get the money from the university to pay for your subscription. We as professors are allowed, and many universities would even give us money to hire human copy editors. In fact, at many universities, they literally say, here is the money, hire a copy editor. Don't send it to the journal before somebody checks your grammar. So why is that ethical, but asking AI to do the same is unethical? So tricky. We use teaching assistants who do some research for us. And again, just like AI, sometimes, they make sometimes mistakes and give you studies that don't exist, but that's okay. Sometimes you would have a co-author team and you don't know how to run some analysis, or you don't know how to do something. So you invite one extra co-author who does it for you. You don't know how to run that analysis, but the co-author does. So why cannot you make AI as a co-author that does some of that work for you? So very, very tricky. And so the point here is that we could not come to an agreement of, what's appropriate. We know we cannot catch it. We know we cannot police it. So now we are kind of leaning towards the option of use it ethically and responsibly, use it as your assistant, not as your substitute. It's okay to ask AI for ideas, but then you think and you decide and you work on those. It's okay to ask AI to check for your commas and punctuation and spelling, but not okay to ask AI to write your work. But again, the truth is, we really, even if we ask students to disclose what they did, what does it change? First, they can lie and we cannot prove that they lied. Second, if they say, I did use AI, so what do we do with that? Is that honest now all of a sudden? Very tricky. So therefore, what we do is we kind of teach them how to use the basics of AI, what's available. We do, for example, teach them now how to get feedback from AI. We want them to talk to friends, to parents, to teachers, get feedback on their work. Why not get it from AI? But again, use it responsibly. So back to you, Jim. So what's your thoughts on that? Because again, we don't really have, a unified one opinion. So very different thoughts on that. So what would be your recommendation?
Yeah, well, given what you just said, as far as Xculture is concerned, I think you're doing the right thing. It cannot really be monitored. I think we had the same problem in the classroom too. I think we put in our policy just as a kind of warning to students not to over-rely on AI. So at least to notify us if they are using it. Not that I don't think either I or my colleagues would give them a lower grade because they're using AI. In fact, we should be encouraging them to a certain degree. But it's a tricky question. We're grading the students ostensibly on the material that they are producing. And unless we know how much is actually theirs and how much is from other sources, it's difficult to know whether the grade is a reliable one and a valid one.
Yeah, very true. And again, some professors say that just like we first tried to ban calculators and then developed all the way to where we make it not only mandatory to use calculators or statistical software, you really need to know how to use them. Maybe with AI, we should approach it as a tool. Jennifer Lee, professor here, so she found a very interesting two collections, actually. Not one. One is a collection of AI use policy statements by different universities, and one is the extracts from the syllabi that professors, statements on the use of AI in specific courses. And so I looked through, it's like hundreds of them there, and I looked through them, and they are relatively vague. So they basically say, use it, but responsibly, something like that. So there is really no more specific guideline, I guess, just like, calculators. Use it when allowed and use it responsibly, but don't forget to learn how to, multiply and add numbers in your head, because that's useful too. So I suppose that's the case. Jennifer, would you like to share some experiences, AI or otherwise? You've had so much experience with Xculture, so.
First of all, it's great to see those professors from around the world who participate and all of the students about to embark on this great adventure. I would say really relationships help with tasks. So building these connections, how often do you get the opportunity to meet people from all corners of the globe? And I know for some of my students who are athletes or have other constraints, it's not feasible for them to have extensive international experiences. And here we have the opportunity to really connect and build connections. And I think this is the real gift if you choose to open the package and build the relationships. And we as faculty, as Voss explained, we also work on projects together, and we live a global virtual team experience, and we realize the value of connection, whether that's having time on scheduled Zoom calls, as well as making sure if we are near each other to say hello, or structured conferences. And so in these next few weeks, you have an opportunity to learn about different geographies, different cultures, different ways of seeing things. And this is really just so exciting. And so I encourage people to find all the different ways to connect, text, FaceTime, use WhatsApp, use the tools, do virtual scavenger hunts, find the ways to learn about each other. So that's what I have to say. I think you've said all the big bits of AI that we know at this point.
And we've had people who formed long-term sort of friendships, relationships. We had teams from different countries that formed, created, started businesses together. We even had a wedding. So 2 X-Culture students met and got married some time ago. And then, yeah, so again, that's not the reason to participate in X-Culture, but some of these people may become your future business partners, friends, employers, employees, or maybe even life partners. So who knows? There is a question from Imam about what's on the readiness test. The same things that are in the training module. So there are sort of 3 parts. One is questions about X-Culture, such as like, where do you find the deadlines? How do you communicate and things like that. Then the human side, so questions about common problems that we see, conflicts, communication, and how to deal with them. And then the technical side, so a little bit about, like what's the best tool to use for co-editing a document, or what's the best tool to use to find the time that works for everyone for a meeting. There is also one more component in that readiness test that is not in the training module, and that is the English proficiency test. So you will have something like a mini TOEFL. So again, we want to make sure that you have the basic understanding of English. And most people have no difficulties, and obviously you can use like Google Translate and stuff like that, both on the test and in the project. And so our logic is whichever way you can get those correct answers, if you can get them on the test, you probably will be able to use the same tools and methods to get the proper, sentences written in the working language of your team during the project. So, but yeah, nothing super difficult other than it does require time and attention. So there are more questions I see, and I want to know, in cases where we did research thoroughly before drafting the report, are we allowed to use AI to restructure our work? Well, we just talked about this. So you can use AI as your assistant. So basically, just like you are allowed to use and ask for advice from your friends, or maybe parents or teachers. So you cannot ask your friend to do the work for you, right? So same thing, you cannot ask AI to do the work for you, but you can discuss the matter with your friend. You can ask your friend for an opinion and feedback on your idea. If you're not a native speaker and your friend is a native speaker, you can ask the friend to check your spelling or grammar. Same thing. So with AI, that would be fine. So you cannot pay your friend to do your work for you, but you can ask your friend to help you if you need help. Same thing here. So, yes. Okay, I don't have any other information. So professors, any parting words of wisdom for the students? So yes, it will be difficult at times. It will be challenging at times, but once it's over, you will feel very good about it. At least that's what we always see. So in fact, I'm proud to say that when you take X-Culture's satisfaction ratings at the end of the project and plot them against satisfaction ratings like iconic products like iPhone or I don't know, Nike shoes, if you go to Amazon. And so you will see that we actually do better than iPhones. So there they would have like 80% are very happy, 10% okay, but like 5% are not happy. So there are always some customers that are not happy with whatever product you look at. With X-Culture, it's usually like 90% very happy, another 5% happy, and then like 2% who are okay, and there are like always like only like 2%, but there is a small portion who maybe had a bad team or something like that. So that's a challenge. Yes. All right. So then let's stop here. Thank you very much for your attention and participation. I hope everything's now clear. And if something's not clear, just send an email to admin@xculture.org and we'll help you, or submit your claim request for help to the coaching program. You have the link in the readiness test and on the resource page, and a coach will be assigned to you personally or to your team and will help you and guide you through those questions and processes. All right, well, have a nice weekend, everyone, and thank you for your work.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.